So good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Dietz. I'm the Director of STEM Initiatives here at Catalyst Connection. We are very excited to have you here today to hear from our navigators. Just for a little bit of background, this is a brand new program for us here at Catalyst Connection. It is basically a manufacturing ambassador program where we have had individual manufacturing companies have nominated young professionals from their companies to represent not only their companies, but also manufacturing in general in the community. So we're very excited today to have 4 of our navigators with us today and to be able to share a little bit of information about their careers and their journeys and their pathways and some additional insights on manufacturing in general. So I think it's going to be a really valuable conversation today. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And again, I encourage you to, if you have any questions, to throw those in the chat today. We also have another panel discussion coming up with the other 4 navigators. We have 8 navigators in total. The other 4 navigators will be joining us on May the 4th at 2 o'clock. So if you're interested in joining us for that panel discussion as well, you're welcome to join us. And of course, we will be continuing to put information out to the community about that opportunity. And we will be recording that session as well if you're not able to join us for that. So if you want to watch this video after the fact, or if you can't stay the entire time, just know that the video will live on our YouTube channel. So just go to youtube.com/Catalyst Connection. And you'll be able to see the finished video and rewatch and or share it with your fellow students or colleagues that weren't able to join us today. So I know we've got multiple schools represented with us today, as I see from those that are on the screen. So I'm not going to do shout outs because I'm afraid I'll miss somebody. And but I know that we have at least 2 or 3 different schools that are with us today. And again, for those that are watching the recording, welcome. And again, hope that this is a valuable experience for you. So if you want to learn more about our navigators, you can also go online to explorenewmfg.org. And I'll ask Nate or Hannah if you guys can throw that link in the chat for us. But on the Explore website, you can click on navigators, learn more about the program in general, but you can also read profiles. Maybe some of the questions we won't get to today that the navigators have answered in a survey or a profile information that you can learn more about them. Or if you want to share their individual profiles with us, with other students or via your social media or whatnot, you're welcome to do so. These individuals will be working with us over the course of the rest of this calendar year and engaging with the community and engaging in these kind of conversations. So again, thank you for the time that you're taking out of your day jobs and the work that you're doing at your manufacturing companies and for being with us today, navigators. You'll also notice those that are on camera are sporting their very lovely blue navigator shirts. Nate's wearing his gray navigator shirt. So we hooked them up with some swag as well to get this program kicked off right. So anyway, we're just going to go around the room real quick for those that are, again, for the navigators, just a quick introduction of your name, what your title is, and who the company is you work for, and then we'll circle back with some additional questions. So, John, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, definitely. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm John Donith. I work for Elwood Mill Products, which is part of the Elwood City Forge Group, which is based here in Western Pennsylvania, and I'm a quality engineer.
Great. Zach?
Hi, my name is Zach McConnell. I work at Prominent Fluid Controls in Western Pennsylvania also, and I am an R&D systems tester.
Jacob?
Hi, my name is Jacob Curley. I'm an assembly technician for MECCO. We build and sell laser marking closures and distribute dot peen marking products as well.
And Shakol?
Hi, I'm Winmon. I am a lab assistant at RE2, and we build robots for a lot of different companies like military and hospitals, solar energy, etc.
Great. Thank you, Shakol, for joining us. So I'm going to go back to Zach for this first question, I think. Just tell us a little bit more about your role at your company and a little bit more about what your company does, and then maybe I'll throw some more questions at you
Of course. So my company, we supply and manufacture water treatment systems. So it's a wide variety of manufacturing we offer within our company. We manufacture pumps, control panels, which will control your whole water treatment system. No person is involved. It's all electronically controlled. And then we also create plug and play systems. They are a variety of sizes for municipality buildings, water treatment companies, even the schools that you're in have our systems in it that control the water that's going through your school, your fountains, your faucets, your swimming pool. All our stuff is involved in everyday life. So within my role, I work side by side with production team and our group of engineers. We take custom orders from customers and build a plug and play system to their needs, depending on what chemical, how much chemical they need introduced into the water that you are drinking, swimming, even nuclear power plants. So what I do is I test the whole system electronically and manufacturing wise when they assemble it, that it works properly, and when the customer receives it, there will be no mistakes, no errors. It'll be smooth operating. Pretty much I am the last resort of quality control before the customer receives our product.
Zach, how did you get into doing that kind of work? What's your background?
So my background, I started younger I worked for a gas detection company manufacturing monitors that detect gas, mainly for mine workers, municipality buildings, nuclear plants, everything. And then I left there to the company I work for currently. I started as a warehouse worker, and then I worked my way up in the company in 5 years and got a degree, and the company helped pay for the degree for a decent amount, which is a very big perk in the manufacturing world today, is that a lot of schools will pay for further education, as long as you do within what the company offers. So I was able to do that, and it's pretty much been smooth sailing since. I'm happy with what I do. Every day it's something different. I'm doing hands-on work, but also sitting behind a desk doing engineering work.
Hey,
Great.
Scott, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, thanks, Zach. I really appreciate you breaking down kind of that career pipeline from, starting at a warehouse to being a QA person. Like, that's amazing. I guess my question is, let's just say you didn't show up to work one day, your job doesn't get done, some new products go out on the market. What are some bad things that can happen if like that quality piece isn't handled?
So if that quality piece isn't handled, let's take it to a water treatment wise. So in our water, we put a chemical in it, which will desanitize, pretty much sanitize the water for drinking capabilities out of the faucet. If I am not there and a product goes out the door because a customer needs it as soon as possible and it is not correct, too much of that chemical can get into that water and possibly cause a lot of harm to the water treatment facility, and they would waste millions of dollars of chemicals. And they would have to dispose of all that water and then reintroduce new water, get a new pump, and then water gets shut down. So therefore, the people within that region have no water. So you see on the news that you got water buffaloes because the water is contaminated. It could be because one of our systems malfunctioned, or it could have been it wasn't put through the right tests. There's a major factors that can go into it that could cause a serious issue.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, what about you? Tell us a little bit about how you got into your current position at MECCO, and maybe a little bit more about what you do on a daily basis.
So I really started my career in manufacturing in high school. I would take elective classes like welding. I really got into mostly metalworking. And then once I was actually in high school, my sophomore and junior year, I took vocational classes at the Butler Vocational School, where you would go half the day. You pretty much take a class that's more geared towards your career that you're going into, and you receive certifications through those classes that'll help you kind of get a job right out of high school. I started my career at a machine shop and then slowly transitioned over, ended up working at MECCO. And right now, my usual day for me is I'll come into work, depending on what I'm doing. So, right now, I'm actually working on building different laser assemblies. So I'm given the parts that I need. I have to assemble them, and then actually put the laser controller and source into the assembly and then program it and test it. Some days I'm working on repairs for our dot peen units that we distribute through Couth. I really am all over the place. I also do machining for MECCO, so sometimes if parts need modified or if we need something quick, I can make that real quick in our shop. But that's a typical day for me. I'm usually all over the place.
It sounds like you wear a lot of hats there.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what was your background coming to MECCO? And I'm curious about, in particular, like, do you think that educational background prepared you for wearing all those different hats and doing all those variety of different jobs on a daily basis? I mean, you're working with robots and then you're doing machining. It's a really wide array.
Yeah, my background really helped because I went to school thinking I wanted to get into machining. So my senior year, I worked in a machine shop. I would go to school half the day, and I did their co-op program where they would let you go to work in an actual, like a job in your field that you're interested in. You can go do that for half the day. So I started working at a machine shop, and for my senior project, I actually job shadowed at MECCO, and that's kind of what introduced me to that field. And I was really interested in it, so I ended up starting there as just a machinist, and then slowly got trained into building lasers. And I think that's one of the best parts about a manufacturing job is really no matter what your background is, if you go into the right company, you can get trained, to do different roles, different things. So you're really not stuck in one place.
Great, thank you. Shakol, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey into getting to RE2, and maybe just tell us a little bit about how you learned about the position at RE2, and then a little bit more about what you do every day.
Sure. So I started off with a 3D printer at home. I didn't really have, much background educational with 3D printing. But Nate actually saw me, printing on a 3D printer at home. And he said, hey, are you interested in a job, with this? Do you have any educational background? So me and him connected and started talking, and he ended up getting me linked in with RE2, and I got hired. When I got hired, I started, and I didn't know anything, and I got a lot of on-the-job training, but, everything just kind of like clicked for me. I started doing electrical wires, and they threw like the hardest wires and crimps that they had at me, and I was able to do them and master them in little to no time. So I've been doing that since I started. I then got into 3D printing at the job and doing different prints and things like that within the job.
That's fantastic. I'm going to give John a chance. I'm going to give John a chance to tell a little bit about his background and his journey to his current position. And then Shakol, I'm coming back to you next. So stay tuned. John, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, definitely. Would it be possible for me to share my screen? Just some props.
Yeah, go for it.
A little easier. I don't know how to make that happen. I don't know if somebody has to make me the presenter.
No, if you look up by the leave button on the top right of your screen, there should be an up arrow next to it. You see it?
Yep.
Share content. Yeah.
Y'all see that?
Yep, got it.
Awesome. So I work for Elwood Mill Products, like I said, and so these are some of the applications that our products go into. So you can see here, there's a wide variety. You got the Navy, aerospace, oil and gas, military, Air Force, and even your everyday cars. And what those have in common is that they all have components that are forged. Except for the car down there on the left, that actually, the plastic panels and metal panels on the cars actually are stamped out of dies, and we provide those dies. And so a lot of people don't know exactly what forging is. If you hear of forging, you probably think of this blacksmithing, where they're taking a hot piece of metal and they're pounding on stuff. But actually, modern day forging, while there are still people that do this, which is really neat, modern day forging looks a lot more like this. If it will come up. So you can see here it's gotten a lot bigger and a lot more advanced. And so this is actually my facility here that I work at. So Elwood Mill Products, we take these large pieces of steel called ingots. We forge them down into a near net configuration, heat treat them to give them the properties that they need, and then machine them to get them close to where they need to go. And then we pass it on down the supply chain for other companies to do finished machining on. Going back to this picture here, we'll provide components that will go into the propulsion system for these ships here. So that's aircraft carriers, destroyers. Obviously, those are really big, really heavy, and they require really strong components. And so that's what we supply to the shipbuilders, is those really strong metal components. And how I ended up here, actually, so in high school, I was always interested in math and science. I enjoyed that a lot more than writing papers. And so when going into college, I was like, how can I get away from writing papers and do more of this? No, so I had some really good input from my dad, who worked in engineering. And so I ended up going in, getting a mechanical engineering degree in college, and got an internship as a plant engineer. So going back to this slide here, all of these pieces of machinery that you can see here, the lathe down here, the press, all of those need people who are going to help design and take care of them as they're operating. And so that's what the plant engineers would do. They make sure the cranes are running. They put in new equipment. So I got to intern with that for a summer in college, which was really neat. Really enjoyed that experience. And as I was coming out of college, I wanted to try to get more into the customer side of things. So I got a job as a product specialist, which is kind of a technical sales role. So I would work with the customers. They needed us to produce these products for them, and I would help them figure out the most cost-effective way for us to produce their products, with different types of metals, different types of manufacturing operations. So I did that for 2 years, and then I wanted to transition into more of a hands-on role, actually getting to work with the products more, and that's how I ended up in this role as a quality engineer. So what a quality engineer does, what I do here is it's my responsibility to make sure that the Navy, the Air Force, oil and gas companies, that we're producing products that meet their requirements. Okay, so these are really important products, and we can't afford just to have anybody making them or just make them however we want. We have to follow specific processes. And so one of my biggest jobs is to make sure that our plant is following those processes, so we can earn accreditations, which basically means we have stamps of approval from some of the bigger ones we have are from the military, and they say you're a good manufacturer, and it's because you meet these requirements. And my job is to make sure we continue meeting those requirements, so that they can continue to rely on us.
That's awesome. And I think if the students just look at those pictures and see the scale of the equipment and the machinery and the scale of the size of the products, Shakol talked about doing some very fine handwork with the assembly of electronic components. And, then you go from that to what John's showing us right now. You can see the contrast of the variety of different types of manufacturing that we do here in Southwestern PA. John, I just want to ask one quick follow-up is, if I'm assuming that, like, if you guys don't meet the quality standards, that would result in losing those contracts potentially with the Defense Department and mean millions of dollars and a lot of people losing their jobs. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually happened to a competitor of ours. Essentially, they won a contract to make these bomb casings, and then as they got started, they had, I'm not going to say they lied about it, but they maybe weren't up to the standard that they needed to be to actually produce those products well. And so when I believe when the military came in and investigated them, they found that they actually weren't meeting those standards, and they pulled this multi-million-dollar contract from them. And it ended up going to us, which is nice. But it's really important. I mean, it can be inconvenient at times. Operators out on the floor aren't always excited by the different requirements that we have to follow, but that's part of my job, is to help them understand. This isn't just me needing you to do this specific paperwork or us to do something in a certain way. These are the requirements, and even if it doesn't seem like the best way to you, this is how the military wants us to do it. This is how the aerospace industry, Boeing and these big aircraft. If any of you guys have ever flown on a plane, the landing gear components. If you're coming down and you know how scary that landing is, right? When you're coming down and the plane bounces off the ground, pretty much, it's depending on that landing gear system, and some of our material actually goes into that. And so it's really important that these products that we're making meet the requirements that have been specified to the T, not just kind of getting close, because people's lives and a lot of money, and in other cases, rides on our forgings not breaking down.
So hopefully, again, just to emphasize a couple of those things, that hopefully the students are picking up on: attention to detail, listening to instructions, the importance of reading and writing, the importance of kind of getting away from any mindset of close enough, good enough. That doesn't cut it in manufacturing for sure. So, and I think all the others that are representative manufacturing here would probably agree with that. John, if you can stop sharing your screen.
I actually have a question for John real quick.
Yeah.
I have an anecdote and a question. So I've actually spent a pretty good amount of time on those aircraft carriers. And in 2011, we were leaving Guam, headed towards the Middle East. We were struck by a tidal wave in the Fukushima earthquake disaster at the time. So it struck our aircraft carrier. The thing, I'm in there praying, thinking we're all about to die. There's like a bunch of tanks, as we see at the bottom middle in there. They're being thrown around like they're inside a pop can. And but I'm talking to the Navy guys, and they're like, look, this is great American manufacturing. Like, don't worry about it. This thing's not going to sink. And we're sitting there, the ship's like shaking like you know what I mean? Like a tin can, like someone shaking up a pop bottle. And we get to the end, and nobody was hurt. Nothing was like, there was no significant damage to the ship. And it was like, that was a really eye-opening moment for me. Like, wait a second, like someone's really like building the crap out of these ships. You know what I mean? Like there's a real high degree of professionalism and quality that goes in. But really my question, if you could go back to that slide that shows the facility. All right, so I'm pretty sure that like steel works and steel facilities are just dirty, antiquated operations. And what you're showing me here looks pretty clean. So could you just like talk about, like what the like steel operations are like based on like versus what the perception might be?
Yeah, definitely. So it varies. I think that the closer you get to the original pouring and melting of the steel to get to this ingot form here, that can still be kind of dirty just by the nature of it. But it doesn't mean that the equipment isn't high tech. It actually has to be extremely high tech, because it has to be able to withstand pretty harsh conditions. But at our facility, they take pride in making sure they clean up their area around. There is dust and stuff that gets created, but we do a good job of cleaning it up. And then our shop, compared to we have some finish machining shops. We do more rough machining. We get it in a rough configuration and then send it to them, and their shops are pristine. They wax the floors, and so yeah, this idea that all manufacturing is extremely dirty, and I'm not going to say there aren't plants out there like that, But I'd say the vast majority, because people are realizing, if we take pride in our shop and we make sure things are cleaned and things are going to flow easier, then people are going to take more pride in what they do. And a lot of shops are realizing that, and they're actually spending more time cleaning, making sure their shops are very clean. And it also helps make sure you don't lose things, that things don't get damaged as easily. People are going to take more care when they're carrying a piece through a shop, not to scuff it on anything or not to set it down too heavily when your shop is clean. So yeah, that's a good point, that manufacturing is not as dirty, or I think I would have thought that coming out of college too. I would have just thought it's pretty dirty, gross facilities, but that's the exception now to most plants.
Shakol, I have another question for you. And I just totally lost it, of course. What do you see as your future with RE2? Do you see a lot of possibilities and opportunities for continuing to grow with the company and continuing to learn new things? Are they providing you a lot of opportunities for growth there?
I do see a lot of opportunities in the future working with RE2. We have a program for going back to school where they'll help with those payments. I'm not sure. I'm debating now on which way I want to go to. I feel like I really want to do, I want to get an electrical background and a manufacturing background. I kind of want to do the dual thing because I really enjoy both. So if they're able to help me, go back to school and do both, that's great. If not, we'll figure it out as we go. But there's definitely room to grow, opportunities to grow.
Go ahead.
Scott, I'm sorry, but I wanted to follow up on that a little bit, because I think that one of the things that we saw, and if you're a student on here, I think that there's some great takeaways from her story. Because one of the things that Shakol does that I think has made her very successful is that she really invests in spending her time like building whatever the next set of skills might be. You know what I mean? So like, if she one day she found out like, wait a second, I can get this 3D printer and I can teach myself how to use it. She wasn't even necessarily connecting that to a career opportunity. She was just connecting that to an opportunity to learn something, right? So I think that, like approaching things with that attitude and being able to, pull something that you can learn out of every situation that you're in is really awesome. And I think it's kind of interesting because even if Shakol never had the chance to step into another classroom again and do any of the like that literal upskilling, like I know that like, she's always figuring out where she can go online and learn something new. And I think that's something that we can all hold on to. I'm not that kind of person. You know what I mean? I talk to companies all the time, like, yeah, how can you find us those kinds of people? I don't think they're probably pretty few and far between. But if you're a student, you have a chance right now and I think being on a call like this is an important first step. But you have a chance to kind of start to build those patterns in your own life. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Scott.
No, I was just going to ask Shakol, like, you didn't start off obviously on a pathway towards manufacturing, and it sounded like from your story you wasn't even on your radar. First of all, I guess, is that accurate? And then secondly, when you're talking to friends and family and you're telling them that you're now working in manufacturing, what kind of reaction do you get from them? And what do you tell them about manufacturing?
Yeah, you're right. I was not thinking about, when I brought the 3D printer, I was not thinking about a job in manufacturing or at a robotics company. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was just, I had this yearning for learning something new. And it really paid off. But whenever people, ask me like, oh, what do you do? This is, or my family, friends, whatever, when I go, start conversations with people, no one ever, guesses that I'm working at a robotics company, and it kind of throws people off. They're like, oh my God, you work in robotics? Like that's pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
How do your kids feel about it, Shakol?
My kids love it. They're like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like I'll bring them, like things that I mess up 3D prints. So I'll bring them home for them to look at, or, like scrap wires that I'm working on, I'll bring them home for them to look at and play with. And they're just like, oh my God, my mom is so cool.
Mom's making Iron Man, and that's what she's really doing, right? Your kids are probably like, Mom's like a superhero, that's awesome.
Right.
Jacob, what I want to ask you is, what advice would you give to young people considering careers, and maybe they're unsure as far as to what their next steps are, or maybe they're just, they're liking what they're hearing in this conversation about manufacturing. Any tips you'd give them on pursuing a career in manufacturing?
Really, it's just be open-minded about what your actual job is going to be, because working in manufacturing, you can really do a lot of different things. Some of them even not even hands-on. Like, you can still work for a manufacturing company and not, be working with your hands all day. Like, such as 3D printing, that's not something where you're exactly working like a so-called dirty environment, like where you are with machining, like I do. But really, I think it's just important to kind of take classes if you can, like electives that'll introduce you to different fields in manufacturing, so you kind of get a taste of everything there is to offer.
Jacob, how important is math in your day-to-day work?
It's very important, actually. With machining,
what kind of math and what kind of stuff are you applying math to in your daily work?
it's mostly a lot of just you have to know, like, fraction conversions for machining, drilling different sizes, converting to metric for different stuff. But you really have to have a good math basis to really get a good base, at least in my field with machining, because there's a lot that goes into it. As far as like tolerances go, you have to know different decimal places, so you know how close you actually need to get to the measurements that are required.
Zach, I'm going to ask you the same question from your vantage point in your work. How important do you see math being?
Math is very little on my part. It's mainly percentages, and it just deals with chemicals. So you have to match what percentage chemical the customer is going to use and match it up to our products that can handle that percentage of that chemical. A lot of our chemicals that we use are very deadly. Like fluoride, most people don't think fluoride is that dangerous because you get it done on your teeth, but it actually, you get it on your skin, it eats from the inside out. So we deal with, not personally in our manufacturing plant, our chemical engineers deal with it more than anyone. But we need to know percentages is the biggest thing. Me being an engineer also in designing and drafting systems, with today's technology and manufacturing, math is all done by a computer. So it makes things definitely a lot easier, especially if you're not a math lover while you're in school. With the technology and computer programs today, they kind of do all the math for you.
Zach, you touched on
my question. I'm sorry, Scott. I apologize. I was going to say that was going to be my question. If I was a high school kid and I don't necessarily love math, but I am interested in manufacturing, would the quality field be a good way to a good place to start?
It is, because you're not really dealing with math-wise, you're dealing with the quality of products. Like John does, is you're making sure the standards of whatever that customer is or your customer's motto, the standards are there. If there is any quality issues from your supply chain, you contact the suppliers and make sure that their standards are met to yours. Chemical or sometimes mechanicals where most of your math will come into play, but quality engineering in my division, in my field, 0 to none.
Zach, I was going to ask about you mentioned about safety, and we have several folks on the call right now from schools and probably some of the students that are taking part in our pre-apprenticeship program. And the first module of content in our pre-apprenticeship program is on safety.
Yes.
And so how important is safety? And if a student has, gets some exposure to safety practices and safety PPE and different safety methodologies or knowledge prior to them getting into these jobs, is that beneficial to them?
Yes, it is. I would say most safety in manufacturing today are eye protection, safety shoes, steel boots, and then also knowing your area. So like in my area, we deal with a mass variety of power tools, saws, high pressure water jets. We were shooting out thousands and thousands of PSI water. You just need to be known of your surroundings safety wise. And then also my company, and I'm sure tons of other companies, offer safety programs and classes to teach you everything inside and out, how to be safe at your company, how to be safe in your department. And also, if you would go to a customer site, they'll tell you how to be safe while you're at a site that you have no information about.
That brings up an interesting point, and I'll throw it out to anybody that wants to answer. Have you guys gotten any chance to visit other manufacturers as part of your job? Do you get to any of you get to travel in your jobs currently?
I do a lot. I get to visit actual sites. So I've been to nuclear plants, government water facilities, and then also I get to go check our manufacturers for some of our parts. If we are having issues, I get to go to their manufacturing plant and I oversee their quality control to make sure that it matches my company's quality. If it does not, we have a meeting, and if they can't meet our standards, sadly, that's where we find a new supply chain for that specific part.
Yeah,
Anybody else? John?
I don't do as much traveling now, though I do get to do the same thing, go visit some of our suppliers. I do audits, so go in, make sure their paperwork's right, make sure they're doing things correctly. Mostly to our the people that make our steel, which is actually sister companies of ours. But then we also have some people that do some machining and stuff like that. But when I was working as a product specialist, I actually got to go visit a lot of different customers, and that was really neat because I got to see those, our forgings. They look pretty, they're just shiny steel. I got to see, I got to go down to Texas, Lufkin Industries down in Texas, where they actually turn those into gears and then put those into gear reduction systems that actually go on ships and stuff like that. So yeah, I've in that role, I got to do it more, going and visiting customers and getting to see, there's a lot of value still to going in person and seeing and meeting people, because you can be walking around and be like, oh, we could help you make that product as well, or at least just understand why their requirements are the way they are. And I've been able to take that knowledge actually and pass it on to the people in our shop and be like, this surface finish on this part is really important to this customer. It might not seem that important, but this is why, or, this is why these properties or this, stuff like that.
I think it's pretty neat. And why I wanted to drill down on that a little bit was just, I think a lot of times students don't realize that, not these these opportunities and these jobs don't necessarily just open doors to that particular company, but the interaction you get with other companies and the potential for travel and the potential for, in some of our local manufacturers are internationally owned and have offices all over the globe. And there's opportunities to work in those other offices, those other locations. And, of course, you're traveling for work. It's a little different than traveling for vacation, but sometimes you can do a little sightseeing after you're done with work for the day as an added plus to that too. So just one of those things. I think it's one of the things students a lot of times don't think about as an extra perk to working in some of these companies, especially the bigger or global companies. John, I did want to ask you though about one of the other things you touched on a little bit was in those interactions with other people. I would imagine communication skills are incredibly important. Not only communicating with your fellow coworkers and communicating what you need them to help you with in order to as a team there to accomplish your goals, but also as you're interacting with other customers. Can you just take 1 minute to just touch on communication real quick, and I'm going to ask the others the same question.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication is, I'd say, the backbone of manufacturing, because without good communication, then agendas and requirements get mixed up. And so being able to have good interpersonal skills, people who get frustrated easily or aren't willing to listen to the other side of things, they don't get very far, and they cause a lot of problems, because manufacturing is all about bringing different people together with different skills to help make the product. Our products are single pieces of steel, but a lot of manufacturing is taking an electrical component and sticking it in with a mechanical component with a computer software programmed in there, and that requires collaboration from people from different fields. And so the interpersonal skills, the communication skills are really important, but also written skills, being able to write up reports, write emails that are professional and communicate well. It makes a big difference. There's a few people in my company who can't write very good emails, and it causes a lot of confusion if you can't read an email and know exactly who's being addressed and what they need to do or what the question is. It just slows things down. And manufacturing is all about being more efficient. And a lot of companies won't have time. My brother actually works in a manufacturing company as well, and his company cares enough about it that if you have spelling errors in your email, you'll get pulled aside by your boss and get talked to about that. And if you're sending too many emails and you're not being short and concise with what you're saying, you'll get talked to about that. And so those are things you guys who are even in high school, you can be working on those things right now. You might not think that this report that you're writing on some book is very important to the job you're going to do, but it does in a way to be able to have those written skills, to be able to communicate well. And spelling's really bad for me. I'm really bad at spelling, but it's something I need to keep working on because it does matter. And just one more thing, just kind of touching back on the math side of things too. I agree with Zach. We don't do as much calculations and stuff, but what that teaches you is problem solving skills, right? When you are in a class and you're learning math, they're teaching you to solve these problems, okay? These math problems. But what that's helping you learn is to solve problems in general. And I'd say that's what all of us do in our jobs in manufacturing is solve problems. Whether it's Jacob who needs to solve the problem of figuring out how to machine a certain part, or Zach to figure out what the chemicals that go into different things, or me, we have a breakdown in our system, or we have a part that goes bad. I need to figure out why that part went bad, because that one part might cost our company $50,000. We can't afford to be scrapping that. We need to figure out why that happened and dig back into it. So just to you high schoolers, I know, I was in high school once not too long ago. And I remember people saying like, oh, computers do math and I'm not going to be a history buff. Like, these things don't matter. But the ability to learn and to problem solve is critical to being a good employee.
Shakol, I want to ask you about first of all, on communication skills. Do you see that at RE2 too, as far as the importance of communication skills? And are there any other skills that you kind of in those soft skills, or things you wish you would have known, or things that you're glad you did know, or any other skills that you see that you think are vitally important?
Yeah, communication skills are definitely major when, working at a company. We have emails coming in, several emails coming in that are important, that are urgent, and you have to be able to, respond to those emails appropriately. You have to be able to take information from that email. If you don't understand it, you have to reach out to the supervisor or, the project manager of whatever build we're working on. So that communication definitely, has to be fluent. It has to be consistent. And, I have my supervisor, he has horrible handwriting. So I'm always going back to him. He'll leave like little notes on my desk or, notes on things that I'm working on. And I'm just like, what does this say? Like, can you please tell me what this says? But if you're scared to go to somebody, especially like your supervisor, and do that, that could be an issue. So, definitely working on those soft skills, working on your communication skills, working on how to send a proper email. There's certain things that you should be saying in your emails and certain things that you shouldn't be saying in your emails. I think somebody touched on writing reports. Whenever I was in school, I was just like, to my English teacher, I can remember him being like, you're going to need this in the future. No matter what you do, you're going to need to know how to write. a solid paragraph, how to cite your references, how to do that. And I find myself doing that presently today.
Shakol, I think you just brought up a really great point too, as far as not being afraid to ask questions and to approach those that are maybe a little bit further down their career pathway than you are. Are you finding that you doing that a lot, especially being brand new to manufacturing?
Yes, I do that every day. I have to go and, if we have a new build coming down, there's several people that are involved. There's a project manager, and then there's the people under the project manager. So and then with even in my other, I have a lot of hats within my job. So I handle the shipping and receiving. Once I receive a package, I have to then notify the person, hey, you have a package. And I may have to get with that person to identify what's in this package. If we don't receive, a packaging slip, I may have to go deliver it to that person's office, or if they're not in, they'll tell me, hey, just, keep it. Can you keep it for me? I won't be in until later on this evening, or I won't be in until next week, or, I'm out of the office, or I'm out of state. We have a lot of people that are traveling and doing different things. So I'll have to, keep that and then get back with them whenever they do, become available to get their package. Or I may have to give it to somebody else that is in office if it's an urgent issue.
Hey, and I would assume that one of the other things you have to navigate, and probably other people on this call as well, is that it's probably hard to know exactly what you're allowed to talk about from work anyways. If your job works with government contracts, et cetera, that's another thing that you have to figure out, how you want to be able to communicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have meetings about that as well. We're briefed on, what we can talk about, like our things with the military, we can't talk about that at all. Our stuff with the hospital, we can't talk about that at all. So we are briefed, and, we do know there's certain projects that we can't talk about at all besides within this building.
So right there, I think you just attracted a lot of students to manufacturing. They want to work on top secret stuff they can't talk to others about.
Yeah.
That just sounds so exciting in and of itself that you're working on stuff like that. But I want to go to Jacob. Jacob, anything you want to add as far as what are some of the skills that you see that are important for succeeding in your job, or skills that you wish you would have been told at a younger age to make sure that you had to be successful in your career?
I really think that communication is probably one of the most important things you can kind of have better skills at in manufacturing. For me, it's not just, talking to customers, but talking to other employees, your coworkers. If someone needs a part machine, they need to clearly communicate what needs done, like what the specifications are and everything like that. And also even communicating with customers. If we get a unit in for a repair, we quote it and we usually have to type up a description of what was done. I like to be very descriptive on it, so it kind of eliminates any questions that the customer would have for us, and it's just clearly stated. But it kind of goes both ways, where if a customer sends something in, they should clearly state what they expect when they get it back, not just, we do what we think is right. It should be communication both ways. So I really think that that's a very important skill that everyone should really work towards kind of improving.
And it sounds like you're also talking about the listening skills to be able to, communication's a two-way street, right? So you not only effectively talking, but also effectively listening and hearing what the person's actually saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also really important that if you have questions or you're not sure about something, that you ask them. It's a lot better than just assuming and then something goes wrong. And yeah, I think asking questions is something that everyone should do.
So we're getting close to the conclusion of our panel discussion already, but so I just want to remind folks that students, teachers, guidance counselors, others that are on the call with us, if you have questions, now's the time to make sure to throw them in the chat so we can bring those up to the individuals, the navigators. But Zach, I want to ask you, as we're kind of starting to wind things down here, what last tips do you have for students, and just in general, do you encourage them to consider manufacturing?
Absolutely. Manufacturing has everything in the world, from engineering, finance, business, HR, technical service, anything. Manufacturing has everything in today's world that you're looking for as a career. My biggest thing is follow what you love. Find something you love to do, whether it's machining parts, you want to become an engineer, you want to be able to do quality control, you want to design bridges, you want to design skyscrapers, schools. It's just follow what you want, what you love, and 95% of the time, you're going to end up in a manufacturing company. In today's world, manufacturing is everywhere. The tennis shoes you're wearing on your feet come from a manufacturing plant. The computers that we're using are from a manufacturing plant. So it's endless possibilities. My biggest thing is do what you love, and you're not going to work a single day in your life.
John, what about you? Anything you want to leave as parting thoughts, or anything that's would you recommend the students continue to explore this as a career option? You're on mute, John.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, just what Zach said, every manufacturing is everywhere. I had no idea that there was so much manufacturing in the world until I started, my internship and started getting into this company. And it kind of opened my eyes. We supply metal to different shops and distribution centers as well. And just driving around, traveling and stuff, I just keep my eyes open now, and I notice like, oh wow, that's what all of these companies are that I'm driving by. This is a fabrication place, this is a machining place, this is this is a plastics manufacturing place. Like, just keep your eyes open, look around, and you'll see that it's everywhere. And so with that, and the fact that everything gets manufactured, nowadays, getting into manufacturing is very transferable skills. Like, if you get tired of working at one company, it's very easy to move over to another one, because the idea of manufacturing is kind of all the same. And with that, my advice to be a good employee is it starts now in high school. Like I was saying, you have to be willing to learn, to ask questions, to find out the why. And willing to put in the work, do your homework, get it done on time. Like I said, don't worry as much about the content of what you're learning, whether it's you're reading books that you're not interested in, or whether you're doing complicated math things that you'll never have to do again. That's not the point. And I'm sure that the high school teachers that are present can understand that it's more important than those specific things is your ability to learn, your ability to apply yourself, your ability to ask questions, and find out the why behind things. Those skills, that discipline of solving problems, those are what's going to make you a valuable employee. So take school seriously. Don't just think, it's whatever, I don't care about these things. For some reason, people think they can come out of high school and college with that attitude and then go into the workplace and change their attitude about things. If you've been spending the last 8 years of your life thinking, oh, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, you're going to go into the working world and you're going to keep saying that. And employers don't like that. Those are the problem employees, the ones that don't care about what they're doing. Those are the people that Zach and I have to deal with when they make mistakes. Because they don't care. They're not reading the instructions thoroughly. So pay attention in school. I know that's an adage that everyone says, but it actually does matter. And don't think you're just going to be able to change your attitude. Right. It starts now, and then you'll be able to carry that over into the workplace.
That's awesome. Jacob, any closing thoughts? Any other tips you would give, or any advice you would give as far as careers in manufacturing?
I would just really drive home the point of just pursuing something that you're actually passionate about, so you actually enjoy your work. If you find something that's really intriguing to you and interesting, and it's a career, it's a field that's going to keep growing, I definitely would pursue a career in that. You don't want to end up doing something that you really don't truly enjoy doing every day. So yeah, really, I just would say pursue something that you genuinely have interest in and enjoy doing.
All right, time for Shakol to close this out. Shakol, what's your last advice and tips and pearls of wisdom you want to share with the students before we close things out today?
Definitely stay focused on what you love. You know, mentorship is definitely amazing. Find somebody that you want to shadow yourself after and get as much information as you can from that person, and let them help you, guide you to go into the right direction where you want to be.
That's awesome. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think at this point we're going to wind things down. But I think Navigators, you all did a fantastic job, and we're very excited about you being able to share your stories and share all those tips and advice. I know we had some positive comments of echoing some of the things you were saying, and appreciation from some folks in the chat about the comments you were making. So I definitely think that it definitely made an impact, and again, hopefully just got the wheels turning for the students. And I'm sure you said some things today that their teachers tell them all the time too, but sometimes hearing it from another voice or from those that really aren't that far down the pathway in their career from where those students are. You guys are only a few years ahead of them.
Scott, could I just say one last thing to close
Yeah,
this out?
absolutely.
Okay, so I'm right now I'm doing the Engaging Leaders of Manufacturing course to kind of help me learn more about the manufacturing space. And one of the guys in my company is a software engineer over at RE2 who the same company as Shakol. And I guess to this day he's never actually worked with Shakol, but me and him were talking. And he was like, yeah, there's this new young lady in this department. I think you might know her. Her name's Shakol. Have you heard of her? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, look, I've never worked with her a day in my life. But I was kind of aware that when she came here, she kind of had a little bit less technical skills than what we were looking for. But one thing that we see is that she exemplifies all of the organization's core values to the point where it's like, all right, we're willing to teach her anything she needs to know, because like she brings other values to the organization that are extremely positive and help us get work done. And the conversation was really just like, we need to find more people who can help embody our core values. So I always say if you're a student and as you try to get your technical expertise down, just make sure that the values side is there too, and the core values, like John was saying, being a good worker, a good student. And, as long as you're bringing that level of consistency to what you're doing, I think you'll be successful.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
Okay, so I just think the willingness to learn is big for these companies. Like Nate said, I went in and I didn't have really any skills, but I was willing to sit there and learn those skills that were necessary for me to complete whatever job they threw at me. I didn't know how to strip wires and crimp wires, but I was willing to sit down and work, a full work day doing nothing but just crimping wires. So I felt like, I didn't think, if I don't get this, they're going to fire me. But I was just like, if I don't get this, then what else am I going to do? So I literally sat for, probably like 3 days, and I just crimped wires. They just gave me spare wires, and I just stripped them and cut them, stripped them and cut them, stripped them and cut them, until they got to a point where they were like, okay, these are good. Like, okay, you know what you're doing. And then I started working on builds.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you to all the navigators. Great job. Thank you again to those that were in attendance today. And we will definitely be sharing the link out with all of you, and hope that you can join us in future conversations. Have an awesome day. And again, consider manufacturing as a career. It's a great opportunity.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.